Welcome to Shielded Voices, the podcast where we break the stigma, build resilience, and support the men and women who serve our communities. I'm Mitch, a dedicated law enforcement professional with over 8 years of full-time experience and a combined 15 years of experience in law enforcement. My journey began as a police cadet, a reserve police officer, and now I am a full-time deputy. I am a defensive tactics instructor, an emergency vehicle operations instructor, and a former drug recognition expert. Now, I'm here to share the conversations that matter the most.
And I'm Brian, a deputy with over 15 years of service. I bring my experience as a defensive tactics instructor, emergency vehicle operations instructor, field training officer, a member of the riot team, as well as a narcotics team as a liaison. I'm also a veteran of the United States Army, and I am passionate about faith, family, and supporting our brothers and sisters in law enforcement.
Together, we're here to share stories, insights, and real talk about the challenges and triumphs of life in law enforcement. Whether it's breaking down the barriers around mental health, reflecting on our own shared experiences, or providing tools for growth and recovery, we're here to have the conversations that matter.
Our goal is simple: to support first responders, foster open communication, and remind everyone in this community that they are never alone. This is a space for growth, connection, and building stronger voices together.
Thank you for joining us. Let's dive into today's episode where we continue to break the silence. Welcome back to another episode of Shielded Voices. Today we're thrilled to have Rob Poynter joining us, a retired deputy sheriff with the Alameda County Sheriff's Office. Rob's distinguished career spans a variety of roles, including jail operations, airport security, patrol division, and the community-oriented policing unit, also known as the COPS unit. He capped off his service as a motorcycle deputy, a role that allowed him to engage with the community in unique and impactful ways. In addition to his impressive career in law enforcement, Rob is a dedicated advocate for mental health. He has a passion for exploring plant medicine as a means to address the mental and emotional challenges faced by first responders. Rob's personal journey includes participating in a transformative retreat with the SIREN Project, where he gained valuable insight into his own mental health and resilience. His experiences have fueled his mission to support others in finding healing and strength. Rob combines his extensive field experience with a commitment to education regarding holistic approaches to well-being. We're honored to have Rob with us today to share his story, the lessons he's learned, and his visions for the future of mental health support within the law enforcement community.
Well, Rob, thanks for joining Shielded Voices, man. We've talked a little bit here kind of leading up to this and a couple of weeks ago. Super excited to dive into this. It's going to be, I can tell we're cut from the same cloth, not just because of our haircuts, but we are definitely cut from the same cloth. This is going to be good. So, Rob, let's start off with, what got you into law enforcement? Did you, like, growing up, was it a family thing? 'Cause I know a lot of guys are like, man, it was just in my blood, or what kind of got you going into law enforcement?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was a family thing, and it was a kind of a long journey to get there, though. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, a little town called Fremont, California. My dad was a deputy sheriff with the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office. He spent a majority of his career as a homicide detective. My mom left when I was about 7, and so he was a single dad, working this job, raising, this boy. And he was also a very high functioning alcoholic. And so I didn't quite understand how much of an alcoholic he was as a young guy. But when I probably was in the teenage years, I started just recognizing, wow, okay, this guy is definitely, how he handles this pressure with this job is, every single night, coming home, drinking his Greyhound, vodka and grapefruit juice, and mostly vodka, right? Just like a splash.
Yeah.
Every time. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not straight. It's not straight vodka. So, but super good dude. I mean, like super, super good human being. Good cop, well respected. And I always loved the camaraderie with his partners that, like they'd come over, bullshit, have a good time. I didn't see that with any of my other friends' family, like that deep, deep bond that you get with these types of jobs when, what I come to find out later on in my career is, when you're counting on somebody for your life and they're counting on you for your life, you create those deep bonds. And so was, kind of heading down that path as a young adult, older teen, started testing a little bit. And then I got kind of freaked out, for lack of a better term, because I didn't want to go down the path of alcoholism, because he was an alcoholic. And I didn't mention my mom is an alcoholic as well.
So I was like, so at a young age, you're already assimilating as a young man. You're assimilating the job with alcoholism at this point.
Yeah, no, straight up. I mean, I was very concerned with like, okay, this is how he deals with stress, and I didn't want to do that. I was also going down a path of health and fitness. I was bodybuilding. I was doing shows, and I was able to get into a career in health and fitness. So, and I started making money, and so that's what I did. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do this then. I'm going to do health and fitness, and I kind of put the law enforcement in the back burner and really tried not to think about it. But I worked for one of the largest health clubs in the nation. Was eventually like a regional director. And then I eventually had my own health club, had my own gym. And prior to owning the gym, I had met my wife. We got married. We had the gym together. There's
the train. Yep.
Train.
Just so you guys, just so people know, Rob is what Californians refer to as snowbirding. He's in the southern portion of the state, and where he's staying, there's a train that goes by every half hour. So we're gonna be hearing that throughout this, but it's all good. We can still hear you.
I'm not in traffic, and someone's not blasting me.
Right.
So I'd never really shared with my wife, like my, earlier goals of being in law enforcement. So we own the gym together, and one of the members is.
You've been with your wife for a number of years. Like you guys met like at an early age.
We met at it's funny. We're 28, 27, 28.
Okay.
So we both worked for that health club, the large health club.
Gotcha.
24-hour fitness is what it was back then. 24-hour fitness.
Yeah.
And so she was a buyer for their, apparel, and I was like the regional director of fitness, so for personal trainers and stuff like that.
Okay.
And she started stalking me. No. And then
yeah, right. Yeah.
I didn't know what to do.
Keep telling yourself that.
So we had met. We opened a gym together. Got married. And one day I was talking to one of our members who was the wife of the undersheriff of Alameda County, which is I'd say a medium-sized agency. I don't know what's medium and large. It's 1,000 sworn members. So he's the undersheriff. She's talking to me. I'm, just talking about, I always wanted to, be in law enforcement. My dad, just explain the whole thing. And then I told her my trepidation, but I noticed my dad and his buddies were just how they would deal with stress is alcohol, and I just didn't want to go down that path. And then she tells me, oh, it's not like that anymore. You should talk to my husband. And so this was like 04, 05. And I go, okay, cool. I talked to him. He was like, yeah, it's not like that anymore. And I was like, okay, and just bought it. And so got into the academy. I'm sorry. Let me step back. I came home and I told my wife, like, hey, I'm gonna apply for Alameda County, be a deputy, and she's just like, well, what are you talking about?
So we have this out of the blue for her.
Yeah, like and a lot of my relationship with her, I do a lot of that. I just like out of the blue be like, hey, we're going to do this. And she's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
This is coming out of nowhere. And she's very, very supportive, like very supportive. At first she's like, huh? Right. But she's very supportive of me in my dreaming seeker world.
Right. Your endeavors, yeah.
Yes. And so, started the academy. She ran the gym for a while, just solo. And then we just decided we had a son, and it was just becoming too much for her to run the gym, have a little one. And so we just decided to sell it.
How does and I don't know how it works in the state of California, what do you apply, get hired, and then the agency puts you through academy? Or because I've heard stories like maybe it was back in the day where you got to go through the academy, and once you get your certification, then you apply. Like it's all out of pocket. How does that work?
It's both. Like you can get sponsored by an agency, or you can put yourself through.
Oh, okay.
So it's either or. Like when times are like right now, no one's really putting themselves through. Agencies are just like, yeah, let me feel your pulse, man.
Yeah, right.
Come on in.
Yep.
And they're sponsoring. So when I went through, my academy was about 100. It started off like probably a little over 100. It was a big.
That's just for you. That's just for Alameda County.
No. I'm sorry. That was the academy. So our agency runs the regional training center, and so we put on the academy. The Alameda County Sheriff's Office puts on the academy. So our agency, I think there was probably 15, 20 that went through.
Okay,
but the whole class was about 100, 120.
And the rest go. They're going to other.
Yeah, they're going to different agencies that were sponsoring them to get in.
Got you. Okay.
So went in, loved it because I love the physical stuff, and so for people that are physical, when you're going through the academy, you're like, oh fuck yeah, I'm getting paid to work out. Hell, this is awesome.
Yep.
And so that was just one thing off of your plate that you don't have to worry about that. You know what I mean? Like, so the people that are not physical, they're worried about, oh shit, I've got all these learning demands, and then they're gonna fucking smoke us tomorrow because you know what I mean? So I was always like, oh cool, physical stuff, that's awesome. I love that. And so it was cool.
I was the guy when we were, the way it works here for our agency, we have what's called a pre-academy.
Okay.
What is it, Mitch? Now is it 9 weeks now? You think?
I would say 9 or maybe even 12.
Yeah, I can't remember. I mean, back in my day, I want to say it was 8, 9 weeks where we do, case law, firearms, defensive tech. We do all of that in-house. Wow. And then you go to the state academy, which is 16 weeks. So for me, like I'm a dumb Army guy. Like, when I say dumb Army guy, I'm not joking. Like every Army base to this day, when you go to any kind of obstacle course, there's just pictures of what to do because we're dumb Army guys, right? So my fear going into academy, not knowing, is like academically, I'm like, oh shit. Like I'm nervous about these academics. I'm a physically fit dude. I'm same as you. I was never a bodybuilder by any means, but always physically fit. I was a beach body coach. Like I did all the things, and fighting was my thing. Mixed martial arts. So at that part, I'm like, whatever. So one of the guys I got hired with, we actually, very, very smart guy. We made a deal. He's like, hey, dude, you help me with fitness. I'll help you with, and we did. And of course, once you get in there, you're like, well, this is okay. Like if I can graduate academy with a 92%, anybody can make it through there. So yeah, so I get what you're saying, right? Kinesthetic learners, hands-on learners, as opposed to
yeah. So it was a lot of fun. I'm like, oh shit, I'm getting paid. Like coming out of owning a business where there's months where you're like, shit, man, we got to get this many memberships and blah 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 blah. I was like, this is awesome. We got benefits and this is freaking awesome.
Right.
Instead of coming out of pocket for benefit, all that stuff. So I was enjoying it. So as I was going through the academy, my wife was really helping me too during the studying part of it. Flashcards, all that
Oh
stuff. And
yeah.
so
Yeah, me too.
she started getting interested in it, and she's like, "Gosh, I really like this. What can I do?" And so then we just, started talking. Well, maybe, once I get through, why don't you apply to be a dispatcher? That seems like something that you can do. And she's like, because I don't want to be, a deputy. I don't want to be on the street or in the jail. Eventually she did apply, and eventually she did work as a dispatcher for our agency. So that's a whole other avenue.
Yeah.
So it was cool though, because we were both really into it. And then her father was Vietnam, then he came out, and then he was a Capitol Police officer. So she grew up with it too.
Oh, okay.
So, which really, as far as like this family dynamic, it is helpful, because if you have two people that have kind of an idea of how this works, right? They have parents that were coming home, and some of them tell stories to the family, some of them don't. But she was kind of ready for what was going to be happening when I got through the academy.
At least on some, I can see that, right? At least on some level. I've often said that, none of us really knew what we were getting into. Like, genuinely, we have an idea, right? And then after a decade and a half or so, you're like, oh fuck,
right?
You're like, this is I don't remember this. I don't remember signing up for this part. Like, I don't remember having. I mean but that's still awesome though, that there's a foundation there between you and your spouse.
Sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But as you said, you think but you have no idea.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because it's funny you said, because it just triggered a memory. Like, before I started everything, I invited my dad over, and because he was always kind of like, oh wow, like, what happened? You were going that direction, and then and I never was just like, oh well, I didn't want to turn out as an alcoholic.
Right. I didn't want to be like you.
Yeah. But so I invited him over, and I was explaining, hey, I'm going to apply for Alameda County, and he was obviously very happy and proud. And my wife, I can remember, it was kind of like a little party we had, and I can remember she kind of pulled me aside, and she's like, oh, do you think that this is going to change you? And I was like, absolutely not. And I was almost offended. I was like, this is not going to change me. And it's so ironic that how much I have changed, and how much it did change me over the course of these years. And
the intuition, like, I've never ever discounted a woman's intuition. The fact that she even said they even had that thought. My mother, God rest her, she passed away in 2010. But my older brother and I, who lives in Texas, like, we as adults now, we're like best friends. But it's interesting. It's that woman's intuition, because they know you. For me, my mother, when I started this career, and I didn't know this, she was very, very concerned for her, because I'm the baby, right?
Yeah.
And I remember her asking me, she's like, son, like, I'm this is amazing, but I'm very worried about you. And I assumed at the time, because we never finished the conversation, I assumed that she was talking about physically, like, because of the shit that cops do. And I'm like, Mom, like, come on, like, I'm a fucking ninja. Like, I got, come on. Plus, they're going to train me even. Like, I'm going to get even more training on top of my fight experience. Like, I got this. And she's like, oh, okay.
Right.
And then I find out not even 2 months ago, being in Texas, hanging out with my brother, that he even told me, he's like, dude, that's not what she was talking about, man.
Right.
Like, Mom and I had so many conversations after you got married. She was so afraid, because she knows you to your core. Of what it was going to do to your soul. And here we are. But again, it's kind of interesting that your wife had that. Change you, right? Like, she had that wherewithal years ago.
Gives me the chills thinking about it, because there's another, and I'll wrap. It kind of wraps both ends of my career too, with what her intuition. And I'm not going to share that quite yet, but Yeah, there's a couple things that she said that were so profound, and yeah, it was crazy. But yeah,
Interesting.
so
So you
we
get through how long is the academy in California?
26 weeks.
Damn.
Yeah, it's a serious high
Yeah.
intensity high, that, and I know it's changed significantly. Where I mean we want to blow out the people that need to be blown out in the beginning, right? We're gonna press physically very, very hard, and they did, and you know what I mean. And so, but in my opinion, at the end of the day, I'm okay with that, because I don't want someone that, I can't do it. You're just like, well, all right, man, get the fuck out of here then, because I don't want someone to cover me,
Well,
or not cover me, or drive around in a circle because you don't want to cover me, because that's just going on.
I wish Oregon was that way. I wish in Oregon's not. Like, there's no the physically, like not even remotely physical. Like you did. There were 6 a.m. workouts. And I put that in quotes.
Right.
Like, come on. Like it was quite honestly, it's a joke. And I've heard that about California's academies, that it's very, very, it's very military, physically demanding.
Yes.
And I was really hoping for that. And I was very disappointed, but you check the box and get through it.
It was no fucking around. You fail. I believe it was 3 tests. You're done. And I don't think it's even close to that now. I don't think, just based on, talking to people, talking to RTOs, the times that we've been through, right? These ever-changing, transparent times that we've been through. I don't think I don't think I don't think that it's like that anymore.
Do you feel like, and I mean, I know for me, like this, the standards have been lessened. So, I mean, the standards are so low. It's what it feels like. I don't, because as an FTO, we see different generations coming through of troops that we're training.
Yeah.
And I don't want to take away, please, I hope nobody takes offense. Like, I don't want to take away from the experiences that newer troops have come through, right? It's different. It's just different.
Sure.
I'm not negating it. It's just different, but it feels like standards have been lessened from when you and I went through, even to where Mitch went through, to, Billy Smith 2 years ago, where like, I remember, interviewing you, it was all about, I'm sitting in front of a panel interview. You better be talking about what kind of a fucking warrior you are.
Right.
And I'll shoot somebody. I don't want to, but I will.
Right.
And now it's like, you better come in sprinkling unicorn dust, and like, that's what it feels like. I jest, but like, really? Now we need to talk about how, we're going to, and I don't disagree with diversity. Don't take it this way, but it seems more and more about just all the softer, kinder, gentler. And I'm like, no.
Right.
Like, yes, I don't disagree. Be compassionate, but come on.
Yeah. I don't disagree with diversity. I do disagree with people being put in positions that aren't qualified. So I'm about, like, be the best person. It doesn't matter, black, white, orange, green, whatever. We want the best. We want the best person. That's.
And if you don't have like Mitch is a defensive tactics instructor, same as me. We always talk about the it. Like, I don't care if you come in and don't know how to fight. Could care less.
Right.
But you better be willing to. You have to have the willingness to do it. That's it. And so many times we see where people are like, ooh, man, I don't know if I could fight somebody. I'm like, this is not. Go be a bread maker.
Yeah. You ask a room of recruits, how many times have you been punched in the face, and no one raises their hands?
Yeah.
Right.
It's just, honestly, that's good. I mean, it's not like it's a bad thing. Like, good for you. You've never been in a fight. You've held your calm or whatever. Like, I talk about, the ninja that I am, being fully transparent, the one thing that I am a subject matter expert in is blocking punches with my face. I'm very good at it.
Right.
I didn't say I was good at fighting. I enjoyed the competitive aspect, but
that's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, so you come through the 26 weeks of academy. Now you've got to go through some sort of a field training program.
So we go straight into the jail. So we do the jail training. So for our agency, the path is you go to the jail, however long you're going to be in the jail, and then I think you got to be in there. It's like 2 to 4 years, I think, and then you put in for
the streets. Okay.
Yeah, you put in for what you want to go do, right? Okay. And most people that get into this business don't get into it to be in the jail, right? But there's some that are. There's some that do, and that's not a bad thing because you've got to man the jail.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most hard chargers are like, I want to get out on the street. Yeah.
Right. I'm gonna chase bad guys, not babysit them.
Cops and robbers.
We always tease our jail guys because ours is patrol or jail, right? And we tease, like, we're all instructors together. We go through academies together, and I love our jails guys. But I'm like, watch this, motherfucker! I'm about to turn a key. Check this shit out. Like, and I tease them, and they, but I mean, it's a difficult job. Like, I would never take away, man, the shit that they put up with, the shit that they see and deal with.
It really is, gosh. And it's actually really good training. You know what I mean? Like, I consider myself somewhat street smart. I mean, I didn't grow up in the ghetto or anything like that. I mean, middle class. But you learn a lot about the games, and a sophisticated convict is going to try to work you to the T. And so you just learn all that stuff, and then you also build relationships with the convicts because I'm there 12 hours a day, they're there 12 hours a day. So you build those relationships because you are going to see them on the street because it's just a revolving door.
Oh yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
It was a good learning experience. And it probably about a year into it, I transferred into intake, and I did like the classifications. So for gangs, PC, administrative segregation, you start dealing with a lot of gang stuff and learning about that. So it was good. It was, I think it was a great experience for me prior to going out on the street. So did that for a few years. And then we have a lot of duty stations. So it's all unincorporated Alameda County. We do the airport. We do, there's a couple of cities, Castro Valley, which have about 60,000 people, Dublin, which has about 6. So we have contracts with them.
Okay.
So it's for like me, it was cool because I would get bored doing something. So I was able to kind of like, I'm going to go check that out, or I want to go check that out. Okay. So my first duty station out of the jail was the airport. And that's also kind of an interesting little stair step because, the airport, Oakland Airport, blows up to, I don't know, 50, 60,000 people come through there a day, right?
Right.
So it's not like a little regional airport where, you get 100, 200 people that come through and it's one deputy sitting there or standing at a podium or something like that. This was like a straight up duty station that, would staff, all.
What city is
Pardon?
This in? What city
it's
is
in Oakland. Oakland.
Oh, so it's the Oakland Airport. Okay.
Oakland Airport, yeah. So it was Oakland Airport. So, you've got all 4 shifts. You've got, actually it was staffed very well. I mean, 6 deputies on each shift. You've got a sergeant, you got a lieutenant. So it was a good little stair step, though, to be used to interacting with the public, being on the radio, all that stuff. And nothing like too crazy happens. But it was a good way to kind of get your feet wet.
Yeah.
And so I was there for, I don't know, maybe 4 months. and then they put me to FTO, and then you go to FTO in one or two places. So the Eden Township substation is our like main duty station, which it borders Oakland. It's unincorporated San Leandro. You're handling Castro Valley. Basically, all the shitty areas that cities don't want to incorporate get stuck into incorporated, and you guys know this. And so, but we're on the fringe of we're on the border of Oakland, so things were trickling in. It was busy. It's a very busy station. It's a great station to go through FTO in. So go out there.
When you say go through FTO, you're a recruit with a field training officer?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm with the airport police services. That's our contract. And they say, hey, you need to go out to FTO. So they stick you out there with the idea that you're going to come back to the airport.
Oh,
and
interesting.
And so I was like, I want to stay here. This is fun.
Right.
And so, I pleaded, hey, I'd really like to stay. Anyway, I was able to stay.
Okay.
And just, started the patrol journey.
Right.
So I worked, it's called C Team. So I worked Wednesday through Saturday night, graveyard. So super busy. Off the hook.
That is the best thing in the world, right? Brand new. You're like, oh my God, I'm driving fast. I'm driving chasing guys, pointing my gun at people.
Yeah.
No, I've got this. Was there early, and I asked this to pretty much everybody. Is there have you encountered anything, even this early in your career, right? As a recruit, have you encountered any kind of calls that you're like, kind of that oh shit call yet? Where you're like,
in the very beginning, nothing really. I mean, nothing was really like too crazy. I mean, some reality checks. I didn't mention this during the academy. A female deputy killed herself, not in the academy, but she worked for our Dublin Police Services, which is a contract for us. So that was kind of like a reality check. Like, wow, okay, but it wasn't like, like, oh fuck, I can't do this or anything like that. It was just kind of a reality check. Like, wow.
But I can imagine, because like you've mentioned, right, as a young man, you're watching your father as a career law enforcement officer who's an alcoholic.
Right.
And it kind of already assimilating, like, there's something. Yeah. And then now you're as this trainee, and you're like, now this, I can't imagine. Maybe looking back on it, maybe you can see now. And you're like, holy shit! Like putting the pieces together, like this is a thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like, but I also learned, at 7, and this will come back around in this story too, that I was really muscling over a lot of stuff, like mentally, like when my mom split, I didn't quite realize it back then, but I started just kind of muscling through, like we muscle through our physical injuries.
Suck it up and drive on. Yep.
Yeah, I was muscling through the mental health stuff, and it started that young. And you kind of, when you have a physical injury, you on your knee, then you start limping, so your hip starts hurting because you're changing it up. And that's kind of what was happening with me. And I didn't really realize it back then, but
this all starts, like, let's be honest, like this is starting before law enforcement, right? Our traumas.
Oh yeah.
Traumas. Now we're compounding it.
No, it started, and then I didn't realize it until just recently, to be honest with you, which is crazy. And I'm 53 years old. But it was happening. It was definitely happening. It was happening with, I was always very quick-witted and able to talk shit as a young person. And so, but the thing was, I was insecure because I think of that issue with my mom leaving. I didn't have a mom. So anybody that was gonna talk shit, I was gonna fucking just knock them down a peg. And I was willing to fight. It was looking back, this is what it was. It was me just compensating for basically that abandonment thing.
Well, it's your.
And I wanted to touch on that at the time. About
Yeah.
You were 7 when that happened. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So, my parents are alcoholics. I mean, this is crazy too. Like, my mom was, great mom. Both of them were, in my opinion back then, I was like, God, she's awesome. Birthday parties, everything for me. My dad was at that time going to college at night, or the time that he was not working, right? So he was trying to get through, I think it's AA at the time, administration of justice. Mm-hmm. So we would, her and I would go to McDonald's, and it was just so cool. It was a cool time in my life. But they were both alcoholics, and they would just brawl. Just fight cats and dogs. And my mom started working part-time at a department store, and then she started going out with her friends after. And then she started drinking hard at night, and then so with her friends. And so I can remember my dad getting called to her bashing somebody in a car, just fucking totaled the front end of her car. Back in the day, the officer would call my dad and be like, hey, I've got your wife here. You probably should come get her. Right. My dad would have to go get her. And, then he'd get the car towed home, and he would replace the front end of the car. And so that just, kind of kept happening.
The train again.
Yeah. That happened. And sorry. My mom was also probably not real happy with the way that my dad was
coping.
Just coping. And he just, he has some asshole running through him, as what's been passed down to me. But he just was not very public.
It is generational. And I know, and people that know me know that I'm very open about my faith. And for me, biblically speaking, it talks about that generational, right? How it is passed up, because it's a learned thing, and for the lack of a better term, we'll call it a curse, right? And those curses need to be broken generationally. Man, my 27-year-old son, 27-year-old, my baby boy,
right?
It's such a smack in the face, a good smack in the face in a conversation we had, was like, he felt such overwhelming pressure. He has a family of his own. And now he feels such overwhelming pressure to break the curse.
Yeah.
And it was like, man, that tore me up. That's my job. You were talking about that, that's what keyed me in, Robert, you were talking about and dad's assholeness kind of filtered down to you, right? And I talk about that again, that for me, biblically, in my faith, there is those generational curses, and how my own 27-year-old son had to bring that to and I'm talking just a few weeks ago,
right?
Going through my own, I'm in the process now of reconnecting with my family.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing. It's been awesome. It's been such a blessing. But to have my 27-year-old son tell me the burden he feels to break that generational curse so that it doesn't get passed down to his sons and my grandsons. It destroyed me to hear that. Yeah. That's my job.
Right.
Why did I allow that to happen to my baby boy?
Right.
And there's, all the forgiveness is there, or it is happening, and so it's good. But man, I hear you. It's that generational, and you've come to a point in your life where you're stopping that as well.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So Yeah. Anyway, like I said, when you said that, it kind of triggered something in me, like that memory of like, wow. So even at a young age, like you're seeing, like your parents are battling. So you said your mom split when you were just gone.
Yeah. This she just, basically split, and so my dad, just took it on and was like, okay, we're gonna do this. And
any siblings, or just you?
At that time, it was just me. I've got a sister that's 10 years older than me that had been from a previous relationship with my dad. My dad had.
Okay.
And then a brother who passed away, but he was 8 years older than me. And so they were with their mom down here. And so it was really just myself, my mom, and my dad. Okay. That's who. And then, you get visits from them. But right. So 7, she bailed, and it was kind of, she was kind of in and out of my life. But it was really my dad that just stepped up and just handled it.
Good man.
It was a very good. That part of it was a great lesson in showing up and just doing the right thing. He would, and he always did. He was, made it to all my sports, no matter what. He would always be at my sports, which was huge for me. And just really set some great examples when it came to stuff like that. Obviously, the drinking was not a great example, but other stuff was phenomenal.
I'm glad that you had that experience of there's because nobody's perfect, like we just aren't. It's crazy hearing you talk, because like we are literally cut from the same cloth, like our upbringing, and for me as a dad, I'm like dealing with all my own PTSD stuff and not knowing about it over the years, being a cop, and hearing my son talk about the impact it had on him now. I'm the same way. Like I spent countless hours coaching Little League, taking hunting, camping, motorcycle riding, and I have a daughter as well who's young. She's 4 years younger than my son. Same, like gymnastics and dancers, did all those things. I was still an asshole.
Right.
Well, I didn't know it. I thought I was being a good dad.
Right.
Asshole for in my brain, good intentions.
Right.
Looking back on it.
I
fucked up.
I will get to my assholishness too. For sure.
So you go through. So now you're like what you're talking. You've got these compounded as we go through this career, like the abandonment issues. You and me both, brother, from my own father. And now you're coming through. What was school like for you dealing with all this? What was that like?
Like high school?
You got a dad for a cop. Your mom left.
My dad was really he gave me a lot of freedom. Like I look back, like I wouldn't have given this guy that much freedom.
Right.
He gave me a lot of freedom, and it could have just been because he was just so fucking tired too. You know what I mean? Like, because when you're raised, as you guys know, I don't know, Mitch, do you have children?
Yeah, I have 2 kids.
Okay.
Toddlers.
It's hard. It's a lot of work. It is like, if you are, together with the significant other, it's extremely difficult. It's tiring. And so, like looking back, I'm always kind of like, man, my dad gave me a lot of freedom. I wonder, was he just tired? What was the deal? But as far as like school, I did just enough to basically play football. Right. And so I just basically did that. Didn't really, I could have done way better. And then sometimes I think, wow, I wish he would have like pushed me on that aspect, and, where could I have gone or whatever, but whatever. But
I always tease that I tease, and I'm not even embellishing. When I graduated high school, I had a decimal point for a GPA. Like there was no number after it. Like if there was any numbers, it would be a before, a negative number.
Yeah.
And the only reason I graduated is because I had already enlisted in the Army. So the principal was like, "Get the fuck out of here."
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Do your thing. But,
my senior year, I was ineligible to play for like one game because of my GPA, and I had to beg the Spanish teacher to please give me I needed a D or something.
Right, just give me a D.
Yeah, so that I could play the final game or whatever. I didn't really apply myself too much, and he wasn't really pushing that aspect of it. So that was kind of my, high school, but
did you notice any, if you're looking back, do you remember, because of everything you dealt with as a child, I'm guessing things aren't really surfacing yet because you're a teenager, a brain still developed, but did you, any violent behaviors, fighting, stuff like that through high school? Or were you just
totally. Yeah, no, I was always ready to go. I'm very, my baseline is very aggressive, so that's kind of what I go to, like to talk shit. And, just.
I swear to God we're related.
Yeah. I mean, it was,
bitch.
that was just how I was and had, I don't know, I got, my rush from that, but not saying that was the best. It is what it is.
It was what I'm learning through my mental health journey. And I can't speak for you, but to me, it sounds like, that was your coping method. That was your defense.
Sure.
Right? That's like, nobody's going to, I can imagine like your mom leaving at an early age.
Yeah.
I've said it before where I assimilate is like, I remember that the day I signed the military contract, I said out loud, nobody will ever hurt me again.
Right.
And that's how we cope.
Yeah. And my mindset, like I literally remember this too, is if you fuck with me, I'm going to fuck with you twice as hard. Like I literally, if it was verbal, you're going to be fucking going back with your head between your legs and your tail between your legs. But that's really how I thought. In everything.
I'll even for me, I can go so far as to say, and I can't wait for my brother to listen to this one because he'll be like, yep, that was our dad. Our dad was the one, you get knocked down in a fight and they're on top of you. Yeah. You grab whatever the fuck you can and beat the shit. I don't care if it's a brick, a board, a shovel, an axe. Yeah. You don't lose. You don't fucking lose.
Woo. Weapon of opportunity.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's yeah. And of course, now as a rational thinking human, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm glad that never happened. Like,
right.
It may have happened a few times.
Right.
Not like with bad weapons, but
yeah. But, no, it's interesting to survive. How with that mindset, I didn't get in too much trouble. So I kind of lucked out, and I was around enough parents in the neighborhood who would check us too, I had a good neighborhood with good dads. I was very fortunate that, and the dads were different then to where, it was okay to check me. Like my dad was cool if you checked me, if I was fucking around, right?
Our generation too. Like our generation, like if you went and spent the night at Bobby's house, you knew Bobby's dad would whoop your ass. And
right.
Your dad was okay with it.
Yeah.
Do that now, like
right.
Oh God, they're gonna go to prison. Like you offended me. Get the fuck
you don't touch my son like that.
Right, exactly. I mean, I used to get paddled by the principal. Like
right. Yeah. So I was fortunate. I still to this day I'm on a thread with about 20 guys, and we talk about all the times growing up in our neighborhood, and it's very cool. But
like guys you grew up with?
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is cool. Yeah, I just did a funny text today, but so we were fortunate, and I was fortunate to be around those guys and good coaches too.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So you come through high school. We get back to now you're in this you're with an FTO now on the streets.
Yeah.
So how long is your what we call FTEP, Field Training Evaluation Program?
Yeah.
When you come out and hit the road, ours was it 15 weeks, Mitch? I think
I can't remember. It's been 2 weeks.
I think it's it's 5 weeks. Phase one, you do 5 weeks with one coach, go to another coach 5 weeks, go to another coach 5 weeks, and then you do, I think it's 17 total. Then you do 2 weeks in what we call checkout with a plain clothes.
Shadow.
Is that the same?
Yeah, that's roughly. It's like 16 weeks. So you got a main FTO for 4 weeks, go to another one, come back, and then a couple weeks of shadow.
Right. And are you rotating shifts during that?
Yeah. So I had two of my FTOs actually were fired. Yeah, but very good FTOs.
Yeah.
And they got caught up in a bad situation. And you guys can look this up, and whoever wants this can look. San Francisco, Alameda County Sheriff's Office car chase. It's a pretty infamous. It was a camera situation, but two of the guys in there were my main FTOs, and so we're changing schedules, and I'm when you're an FTO and you've got someone that's a hard charger and he's we're gonna go. So the main duty station has 4 different sectors. And so usually if you're with an FTO, you're sticking to one sector, right? That's his sector beat. I don't know what you guys call them.
We call them districts.
Or district. So you stay with that district. So my guy was, he was a Charles unit. So he was a cover unit. So he was everywhere. Right. So I'm just like, oh my God, my head is spinning. He's a hard charger too. He is like just pulling people over left and right. Getting on the radio, hold that paper, we'll take that. And I'm just like, but it was good. But it was really good because, it taught me a lot of stuff, and that's really what I wanted. I don't want to just stick in that one sector, and we'll take these easy calls and the bicycle theft and whatever.
You ain't learning shit. My first FTO, I'll say his first name, Jeremy. He's retired in Texas now. I just had a great conversation with him just a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
he was the guy, my very first coach ever. Just an amazing man.
Yeah.
Period. And then to be an FTO, like the toughest FTO, if not one of the toughest FTOs this agency's ever seen in my time.
Yeah.
And same way, we're assigned a district, but if he heard a call come out in a district across the fucking county, my recruit's taking that because he wants me to get the experience.
Yeah.
At the time, I'm like, motherfucker, I'd like to get off on time once. That'd be
great.
Never happened in my entire phase with him. Not one day did I ever get off on time because he's making FTO overtime. So. Right.
Exactly.
It's a cash cow for him.
Yeah.
But to what you're saying, to your point, like I agree. Like same way with my recruits. I want you to take everything you can. We need to get you exposed. I got this much time with you.
Yeah.
I got to get you exposed to everything I can get you exposed
to. Yeah. I'm teaching you how to go home every single night. I'm going to do whatever I can to do. And that was the mindset and the feeling I got from my FTOs. You know what I mean? Like I obviously, you fuck with your trainees a bit, but
of course.
I felt like, hey, this guy's basically caring, and he's training me to save my life. Yep. And so that's exactly right. Exactly right. And so and everybody out on the street at that time, he's training me to do this and to protect all of us. So you want that,
Oh yes, you absolutely want that. So, it's a Mitch and I joke. Like you can always tell a recruit. When a recruit comes to an FTO, if that field training officer is the emergency vehicle operations instructor, because he's going to harp the shit out of your driving.
Right.
A defensive tactics use of force instructor, because it's all about officer safety. I don't give a fuck about it.
Right.
Now you get a guy like me, I'm both.
Right.
So as a recruit, you're fucked.
Yeah, you're getting hammered.
Yeah.
No matter what you do. Yeah.
And I still talk to my former recruits to this day. I love them. They're friends. They're not my recruits.
Yeah.
They're my friends.
Yeah.
And some of the best accolades I've ever had was from them. Like, man, it's because of you, A, B, and C, right? The time you invest. And it's like, that's such a good feeling. I've got emails literally sitting. It's crazy. Like literally sitting right here.
Yeah.
Written emails from coworkers that
right.
I work with talking about all of that. And I keep them. It's just a weird.
Well, it's priceless. You can't put a dollar amount on that feeling. You know? Yeah. So, life and death.
Yeah. We kind of started talking about, you kind of had these little bit of like, oh shit, or reality checks as a recruit. Was there any particular calls as a recruit that kind of made you either A, question the job or oh shit, this is real?
No. I mean, I'm trying to think. Probably nothing to where I was just like, I don't know if I want. It was the ability to use force in a certain way, which I was not used to within the jail or coming out of the academy. You know, because like in the academy, they're you know, you can't use force this way, but it's such a different aspect when you're on the street.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Much.
It's like, no, this is what we're gonna do, and this was, you know, also pre-cameras, so this is what we're gonna do, and you know, we're gonna write it this way, and it's gonna be fine. So that was an eye opener, but there wasn't like any calls in that time where I was just like, oh shit. I mean, you know, like some dead bodies or something like that. We're just like, wow, fuck, I've never seen I've never seen a 400-pound man naked with ants coming out of his ass. That's crazy. That's, you know, like stuff like that. You know what I mean? We're just like, well, whoa. And then the coroner deputies come and they're like, gosh, can you guys help us move?
Right.
And so you're just like, oh, yeah, okay, I guess. So like some weird stuff like that, but nothing like.
What's interesting is all the sirens in the background where you're at as we're talking about this. I love it. I love it.
They're coming, man. Rolling code. That's
funny. You talk about that like as a recruit. When I was a recruit, we just had a couple episodes on one of my mentors, one of my former coaches, Scott, and him and I were on a call, and it was that 400-pound dead dude,
right?
And he's in his recliner, right? So picture him partially reclined,
right?
He's like 9 million pounds, butt naked,
right? Yeah,
and we're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like no gun, no nothing. I think he just died.
Yeah.
Well, now we got to get this fat body out of the recliner for the medical examiner, right?
Yeah.
And he'd been gone a while. He's
right.
Yeah. So it takes me, and Scott's 6'4", big dude.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a fit dude. I'm not a big dude, but I'm fit. We had to call for 2 other deputies. So we get him out of his chair.
Yeah.
You do the slide off the chair, and it's like a board hitting the ground.
Right.
I'm not kidding you, Rob. He don't move. It's not like he lays flat.
Yeah.
He's still propped up in the recliner position.
Right. Yeah.
On the floor.
It's crazy.
Dead as shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, so like things like that where, you know, you're just not used to seeing that. Right. That's just, you know, the sights, the smells, the things that you hear, you're just not used to that. And so, stuff like that was kind of interesting. But at that point, I'm trying to think. It's hard to remember that far back, but there was nothing like striking that
stood out.
Yeah. Just what stood out was the pace. You know, like the pace was just off the hook.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, I gotta take a kidnapping call, and like, whoa, what? You know, like and then you're like, oh fuck, how do I do a kidnapping?
Right. I'm not done writing this report yet.
Right. Yeah. I'm down 7 fucking papers, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you got that. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And then this FTO I had, the first guy. So you were saying like the different shifts. So he would work a 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. shift. And then the next day he would come in at 1 p.m. and we'd work 1 to 1. So he had this crazy hybrid schedule. And so then, you know, I've got an hour drive home. I can't get to sleep at all because my adrenaline's pumping. Yeah. So I'm getting like a couple hours sleep and I got to get back up and go. Yeah. But I mean, you know, just to me, that's like, you know, normal stuff that you go through in FTO. And, you embrace the suck, right? You just kind of
it's what's interesting now is looking back on, like you mentioned, the sleep. For me, even through the military, sleep has never been. I don't care what shift I worked. I never had what, I hear guys, well, I need some decompression time. Bro, I walk through the door, I put my shit away, and I'm out cold. Like,
that's awesome.
Oh yeah, I've never ever had that issue. But looking back on like what you say, this normal stuff, right? Yeah. And again, I laugh about the 9 million pound dead dude that's in it. It's funny to weirdos like us, like we're twisted that way.
Yeah,
that's my point. It's even though we can look back on it and it's funny and it becomes normal.
Yeah,
not normal.
No,
just not.
No.
Every aspect of that job takes a little away from us. Even
Absolutely.
If it's, I've even said it before, man, running code 3 with lights and sirens into oncoming traffic at 2 p.m. is so much fucking fun.
Yeah.
But it still takes some away from you. Know, when you do it over and over and over again.
Sure.
Like I could do it today, drinking a coffee, eating a donut.
Right. Yeah, looking at the MBT at the same time.
Exactly. Talking to your wife on the phone.
Yeah.
But it's still taking stuff away from you. So it's not, we say it's normal. But it's not. It's just not.
It's also interesting, like even hearing these guys going code 3 behind me, I still get a little adrenaline bump. Like I still get like this, or I can hear like an old Crown Vic, like getting on it. You can hear the engine.
Oh,
yeah. I feel like I get a little like endorphin drop. It's very interesting. I still do. And I haven't worked in a long time.
We have, Mitch is an EVOC instructor as well. And we had, and I don't know if they still do, but we still had a couple Crown Vics in the training area. And the last thing you tell an EVOC instructor is, hey, the county's decommissioning that car. That means we're going to fucking destroy that car. Like, we spend hours, J-turns, drifting.
Yeah.
We had to change tires because we'd blown through to keep them.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
The sound of that Crown Vic.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Those things impressed me so much, man. You could beat the shit out of that thing.
Yeah.
And it would just keep going. Just keep on going, man. But
I would always pick the slick top Crown Vic because no one wanted to drive it. It was
right.
Yeah, I get called a clown for driving.
Yeah.
I fucking love those cars.
Oh yeah. So cool. Yeah.
I remember like I got hit in one of them. I was clearing an intersection, and they did what they're supposed to do. Like the Interceptor Crown Vics, they actually, the body breaks away when they get hit to lessen the impact.
Yeah.
And I got clearing the intersection, did everything right, sirens, whatever. And of course, somebody coming the other way on the other side of traffic, not paying attention. I don't know what she was doing. Thankfully, I stopped in time, and just right in the left front quarter panel of that car. And what was crazy is that I remember that the car itself didn't move, but the entire front half of my car blew up the street, like the fender, the hood, like all the shit. Wow. I'm like, holy shit, that's the hood of my car. It's fine. Right. But the car itself just sat there stationary. Right. And her car was destroyed.
Yeah. They were
like, nobody got hurt, but man, those Crown Vics were amazing.
Love
it. But so anyway, so you're coming through FTEP. What's it like? Do you remember, like, there's this checkout phase. Do you remember the day where that checkout coach is like, you're on your own, buddy. Go be.
Yeah, I actually do. It was another guy that got fired. Another good dude too. So he's like, hey, today, it's gonna be your last day. I'm gonna take all the paper. And I was like, all right, cool. So it's like 3 p.m. I think we were off at 5 or 6. And he goes, so we're going, say, north. We see a motorcycle going south. And he goes, turn around, follow that bike. He's wearing tennis shoes. I go, okay. He's like, those guys like to run. And so I was like, what? Okay. Yeah. I was like, okay. And so I turn around. I lit him up. I can't remember what he did. Something. He did something wrong. Lit him up. Boom. He takes off, right? So the chase is on. And it's like, I don't know, 3 p.m. So lots of traffic. call the chase off. But we get a call, literally 30 seconds later that there's a bike down on a street around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
The dude had like just center punched another car, and we ended up getting him. It was cool. He had dope on him. But my FTO's intuition on just the littlest thing like that, and I was like, wow, that's fucking okay.
I've never heard. Have you ever heard that, Mitch? I've
never
heard
no.
That. Well, a motorcycle rider, tennis shoes, they like to run.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
So
it was, Luis was a stud. And I was like, okay, fuck, let's go.
Let's do this.
And he did. He took off. I was like, fuck, okay, this guy's fucking Rain Man. And so he ended up, so Luis, he's like, hey man, I told you I'm taking everything. I mean, it's end of our shift, so he's got to do the report. Yeah, that was my last day in FTO. It was very memorable. It was cool. Yeah.
And then, so do you come in the very next day or do you go on a weekend and then?
I think I had a weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was the weekend. It was the weekend.
You're in a solo car at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we go. Yeah. Solo car. Yeah, man, just started getting after it.
Yeah. And that was crazy because my first day, I know Mitch, I'm sure you remember yours. I actually had to help. I got cut loose, be on my own. I still had 2 days left in our work week.
Okay.
I came in the next day, and of course I was overdue reports because my FTO,
right,
same guy Jeremy that held me. He was my checkout coach.
Yeah.
Made me stay till God knows when to do reports. But he's like, go ahead and go home because now you're a solo deputy.
Yeah.
And your reports just get done.
Right.
So we get done with briefing, and everybody hits the road, and I'm still stuck at the precinct finishing my reports. And I remember going out to my car. Everybody's gone. I'm okay. Like you're a big boy now. Like we're doing this.
Yeah.
And I pulled out of the precinct, and my district partner at the time, I hear him call traffic. So I'm like, I'll drift that way. I'll go cover a traffic stop. Like I can do what I want now.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I get almost there, and he calls out pursuit.
Oh,
and I'm like, my very first call on my own. And we get in this pursuit, and it's a fucking Ford Aerostar minivan with the fake spinners on it. Right?
Yeah. Nice.
And as I'm catching up to where he's at, he's like, they crashed out, they're foot bailing in day one. And I'm like, what? I don't even know what the fuck to do.
Right.
I'm running with you, dude. Like we've got, we don't have air support or anything.
Right.
Like California does. And it's just, I roll up, there's this vehicle's tore to shit. There's, him and I are running and everything gets all over. And I don't even think we caught the bad guys.
Right.
And I remember, we're doing a little debrief, and our sergeant at the time, he looks directly at me. He goes, Brian, how's day one? How's day one treat? I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Like, how could anyone want to do this job?
Hour one, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's badass. That's cool. Yeah. I mean, it's so fun. That is so fun. That you don't get that doing anything else.
No,
you don't get that endorphin drop. You don't get that camaraderie with your district partner, your beat partner.
Right. Well,
phenomenal.
You're facing with these guys and gals that you work with for years. You're facing the worst of the worst day in and day out.
Yep.
And what's interesting to me is that camaraderie. But God, man, we eat our own too, and it's
sure.
It's like people like they hang each other out to dry.
Yeah.
Like we just came through years of pick your calls, pick your battles, pick your traumas.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also the first people to just cut them off at the knees.
Sure.
As a culture.
Sure.
And it's, sure. I've never been that way. I can genuinely say I'm not that way.
Yeah.
I've always fought very hard to not be that way. Like, I don't care what kind of grease you're in. We had an employee ultimately get terminated, and then there was some, we'll say, some substance abuse issues as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And even after that, like, man, he's a human being.
Sure.
I would call and check on him.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I know you're going through some shit. Like,
yeah,
job's over. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've lost touch with them. I'll be honest, but
Right.
it's just, yeah, it breaks my heart that this culture is that way. Like, you fart sideways in the wind, and
yeah,
if you're no longer part of this agency, well, then you're cast out. Like,
right. Right. It seems also the higher up you go, the more you start forgetting what it is to be like down at that line level. And there's a lot of compromises that are made. I think the money, you start making more money, the higher up you go, you start making these compromises on right and wrong, how you treat people. We used to call it, they go to brainwashing school once they start promoting and stuff.
Yep. We call it, Mitch, you know what we call it, Mitch?
I forget. No.
Come on. Drinking the Kool-Aid.
Oh, yeah.
Drinking the Kool-Aid. Man, you start promoting, and there's some motherfuckers you're like, bro, sip it. Don't chug it.
Right.
Like, come on. Like,
come on, man.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, where you came from.
That is unfortunate. Well, and then you also got to look at a lot of guys promote that don't necessarily come up through the street. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe they'll come out for a year or whatever. And then they're like, they start testing and promoting. And, it's like, you don't want that guy in charge of. Because
they test well and interview well.
Right.
Like, it just doesn't, it's never made sense to me. That's an HR driven thing, right?
Right.
HR drives all that bullshit.
Yeah. So that's unfortunate.
So you get, how many years total do you have? Did you do
14?
So 14 years.
Yeah.
So coming through coming into now the portion of your career where you start, I mean, I'm guessing there's a period of your career where you start realizing there's some shit going on. Like, something lead up to that, or?
Yeah, it's hard to pinpoint it. I would say probably about one thing that happened that maybe really start to you ask a few times about, like, was there a call that really started bothering you? And there was one call that we just broken briefing, and I don't know what I was doing. I was fucking around in the car at the station, and one of my beat partners immediately got into a pursuit, and so I was like, oh fuck, let's go, sweet. It's 5:15, 5:30, whatever. So it's busy, it's traffic, and he's hauling ass down a main street, and he obviously sees, well, this is dangerous, I'm going to call it off. Calls it off. Bad guy doesn't know that he called it off. He goes into oncoming traffic. The bad guy does. Hits somebody. And the call came out that it was someone, a male on a scooter. And for some reason, in my mind, because of the area it was in, I thought it was like an old person on a scooter, right?
Oh,
that got hit.
Like the little wheeled scooters.
Yeah. So I was half-assed trailing the pursuit. So I'm like, I'm right here. I'll go. And what it was a kid. It was a little kid, and he was on his scooter. And so my son was the same age as this kid. And so I got there on scene. I could not compute, because in my mind I was like, scooter, old person, and then I was seeing this kid who got blasted. I mean, blasted because the bad guy was moving. And I knew the bad guy because I had just arrested him 3 weeks ago, and he was a turd. I mean, just a turd. He'd done state time. So saw the kid. Sergeant gets on scene. A couple other people get on scene. I don't think that I'm going to be taking primary on this. So I don't know what I went 10, someone else, a few people came. I went 10-8. Then 20 minutes later, I got called back to the station. Hey, you're going to have to go to the hospital, and you're going to take primary. And so then I had to go to the morgue and just sit with the body. So that one really bothered me, because, I was thinking of my son, right? And I see this young boy who just died, and he was just, crossing the street and on his scooter, going home for dinner, right? That one really got me, and it made me think about pursuits a little bit differently too. Because we would get in pursuits all the time, and it was crazy.
Anything. Yes.
Yeah. No, we literally could do anything. We could do an infraction. It wasn't, it's got to be a felony. It was just like, hey, if they go, let's go.
Those were the days. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that one really affected me. And I would say, because you've been asking about that. That was a tough one to kind of.
Is that early on in your career, halfway through? Or?
Yeah. No, it's probably early. Well, halfway through my career, but probably pretty early in my patrol career.
Gotcha.
Okay. But yeah, that was a tough one.
Did that incident continue to affect you throughout your career?
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, like, I would really think I just thought differently about jumping in pursuits. Especially, that time of day, that kind of traffic. It definitely affected me in that way. And even, like talking about it now, it affects me. It bothers me. It's sad. So I believe that, it definitely affected me the rest of my career. But I muscled over it, and I had to be primary. Right. You know what I mean? I had to be primary and, do a full investigation of, the whole pursuit. And that guy ended up, he got away.
I was going to say, I'm guessing he didn't stop.
No, he was a fucking turd. Yeah. Got away. But that's one of the ones where our agency was really, really good with, we're going to go till the wheels come off until we get this guy. So we had a real good gang investigation unit that when something like this happened, they were basically going to stay on until they caught this guy. So I think it took
he's a G, I'm assuming.
Yeah, 3 or 4 days until they were able to track him down in another city. Squeezed everybody around him, and you know what I mean? They were able to get him, and they did. And then he ended up I want to say I'm certain he's still in state prison. He was multiple times convicted. Yeah.
So, good riddance.
Yeah.
Good riddance.
Absolutely.
So that starts, and again, we always, I've mentioned it before, I call it the one call. And there I know for me, there is no one call. Right? There's so many calls compounding. And,
sure.
What's interesting too, is it's not only the call. So we've talked about these compounding accumulative acute traumas.
Sure.
And it's like we talked about earlier, you take all of our childhood bullshit, therapy. Are you kidding me? It was the 80s. Fucking therapy. Get out of here. In the 90s, like there's no therapy. Yeah. And then you get into, cop work. Yeah. And how everything it's compounding and it's accumulative. And then on top of that, for some, and we've talked to other people, like I know a lot of people are familiar with the Sean Ryan Show, that podcast. He talked to a guy from Fayetteville, in the North Carolina area, that even talked about the same thing, where you take all of that stuff and compound it, and now you've got an agency that is doing their administrative bullshit. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like when you don't feel supported. And I don't mean even just personally, even just the mission.
Sure.
Right. What we're hearing a lot of is these agencies aren't supporting the mission anymore.
Right.
It's all about optics. It's all about, well, stop chasing the dope dealers that are killing kids. Just write more tickets. Do more traffic stops. Because that gives an optic to the fuck you and your traffic stops. Right.
Yeah.
Like, fuck off. In Oregon, we've got case law now. Like traffic stops are not what they used to be. Like I can't even run a dope dog around a car on a traffic stop anymore.
Wow.
Because they have a right to privacy on the air around their car. Like, hello, Ninth Circuit.
Right. Yeah.
So again, and I'm not specifically when I say these things, I'm not talking about specifically the agency that I'm employed by. I'm talking about as a culture. We talk to all these other people about this, and that it's all that compounding stuff. And you finally get to a point in your career where you're like, deuces, man. Like I'm right. It takes too much of a toll. So, so for you, I'm going to say probably 7 years into this career or so. You know, and you're dealing with these compounding, accumulative traumas. Was there a point? Well, you ended up doing motors, right? You were
So patrol. Then I start volunteering for some different weekend suppression units where, you know, we're just going out and just hammering, right? Just going for it.
So much
and
fun.
So I volunteered for that. And then, so that kind of got me recognized a little bit to where I got into a specialized unit. It was the cop shop, which was community orienting, but it was really, the way we did it was really cool because we basically were supporting all the investigative units. We were doing search warrants, doing a lot of grow houses. I learned a lot in that unit. And you know, then we would just, let's go out on the street and do our own little suppression thing. So
start turning rocks.
Exactly. So I did that, which that unit turned into what's called the special duty unit, to where then it was even more of what we're kind of doing sometimes. It was full, went to detective school, full like support of all the investigative units, specifically Vice, where there was only a couple guys. So that was super.
Sounds like kind of like a street crimes unit. Like
yeah. And so it was cool. I was having a good time. As I kind of alluded to earlier, I get bored if I'm like doing the same exact thing all the time. So the agency was really big, and it was like, you can go do this, you can go do this, you can do this. And then I have friends in the motor unit. I never wanted to be in the motor unit because I was just like, I don't want to write a bunch of fucking tickets. That's fucking
right. Like I want to chase bad guys.
Right.
Well, so digress just a little bit, Rob. Like what we call street crimes unit. Did you find that work was actually effective for the community? Was that kind of work? Was it actually? Now I know it's a revolving door.
Yeah.
But was it effective? I mean, was there effective work being done where you're actually getting bad guys?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting bad guys, but you know, down here they're going right back out.
Oh, same up here. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was. I mean, you know, yes and no. You know, like you were, but you weren't.
Right.
So it was that's a little frustrating. Like you put a lot of work into, you know, getting somebody, and you get a bunch of dope, and you do all the evidence, and you know, all the work that it takes, write the reports, get the supplements. I mean, all that stuff it takes. And then you're like, oh yeah, dude got out Monday night. You're just like,
he's on probation. Right. You're like,
right.
Yeah.
So
was there times during those special teams that you guys have, you know, right? Because we've got listeners that aren't cops. They kind of want to hear that cool shit, right? Was there any calls that stood out for you during that time where you maybe one time you're like, actually, you know what? I actually feel really good about this one. We took this guy down, you know, or something of that nature.
I mean, this is kind of a weird one. It wasn't, and it might, I don't know. For me, it was kind of cool, but this was actually when I was on patrol. So I started, I pulled a dude over in a van, like totally cranker van, right? In a weird little area that I always would get people. Ran him out, and my cover partner came, ran him out, and I think it said he had just gotten off parole or something. And so I went back and I kind of bullshitted him, and I was like, hey, so you're on parole, huh? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, all right, well, you know the deal, right? And he's like, yeah, you got to search everything.
Yep.
And I was like, right. So I got into his van, and there was a bunch of like backpacks, kids' backpacks, school books, and just all kinds of stuff that did not belong with this parolee, right? So I was like, what's the deal? And he's like, oh, I don't know, not my stuff. And so
Right.
I was able to research this and, got the name from the kid or something, called the PD over there. Yeah, this car got broken into, and got in touch with the people. And I again, this is not a huge one. It was just kind of cool because this turd, like, bought in that he was still on parole, and he gave me permission. Like, I didn't, he gave me permission.
Yeah, he gave me consent.
And I was able to get this stuff back to this family that was, 5 blocks or 5 cities away. It was just interesting.
Yeah.
As far as like crazy stuff, I was on Cops. That was fun.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Right on.
That was cool. I had some really fun partners on Cops, so that was always fun. As far as like big crazy things, it's hard. It's hard to remember.
Well, and one of the other reasons I asked that question is because it's. I also want to show people, because like people ask me the same thing.
Yeah.
Hey, what's some crazy shit you've done? And I'm like,
right. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And that's my point, right? And so I'm kind of glad you answered that way, because I want to show people that just because somebody's a cop, look, I get it. To you, the shit we do is super crazy, super
sure,
and it should be, right?
Yeah,
it should be super crazy to you, because that's why we do the job, so you don't have to deal with that crazy shit.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's a testament to, for the people that know me, it's not just me, even Bob, even Mitch. You're like, I don't know. Like, I did this one. Like, the crazy stuff, it's a testament to you and your character. Is the things that stand out to you is not the turd in the van.
Right.
It's the fact that you just got to give this property back to a family.
Right.
That is why we do this job.
Totally.
That's the only reason most of us do this job. Yes, there's the 1% that's bad, whatever.
Absolutely. I used to look at my beat, my sector, like, if I lived here, like, this is how I would want someone, patrolling this area. And, like, there's a lot of really good people in this beat. There's a lot of really good people in this sector. And, like,
they are the ones. It's cliche, and I've told every one of my recruits this. These people you're dealing with, they do pay your salary.
Right.
They are the taxpayer.
Yeah.
So treat them like they're the taxpayer. Like, there's a time for business. We'll take it. Treat them with respect and dignity. But I've never taken. I've even told citizens I don't take that lightly. That, like, I go look for bad guys because I know that's what you're paying me. That's what you want me to do.
Right.
Regardless of the policies and the politics.
Yeah.
With, commissioners and administrators and all the people that got their nose so far up their own ass, they don't even know what's happening anymore.
Right.
And again, I'm talking as a culture, so don't people get pissed off. I'm not talking about my agency.
Yeah.
You're smiling, Mitch. It's true. Like, no, you, the citizen, you want me to go chase that bad guy or find the bad guy? That's what I'm going to do.
Right.
That's what.
Yeah. And I really started feeling this more after I got out of patrol, really, because I was definitely getting burnt with, going to the 10 to 20 calls a night where, at least one of those people there does not want you there, and you're having to make these decisions that are very silly decisions, right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
You've got to be the parent. Right. And so I was getting burnt on that. And when I got into these other units, I started really being able to see there's some really good people out here, that are really supporting us. And so it was an interesting transition for me. But yeah.
Well, let's do this, man. We're at that hour and a half break. Let's take a 5-minute break.
That wraps up part 1 of our conversation with Rob Poynter. His journey from a challenging childhood to beginning his career in law enforcement has given us incredible insight into resilience and personal growth. In our next episode, we'll dive even deeper into Rob's experiences, including the impact of traumatic incidents, his work with the SIREN Project, and his passion for mental health advocacy. Make sure to follow Shielded Voices on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss part 2. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps us reach more first responders and continue these important conversations. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.